And away we go. It is the live Saturday night version, the final live Saturday night version of the football season. And yeah, welcome in. We appreciate all of you that join us. This show, as always, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Go to the website, get the app. The app will get you delivery right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop, or head down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% on the best fried chicken in the city. Some chicken tenders, some fries, some Galactic sauce. It is out of this world. All right, Aaron, here we are. One final time.
Right.
A season I would like to just go ahead and fire into the sun.
Yeah. I mean, take it out to pasture and put it down. Be all right with that.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's not a surprise. Like, this is, when you broke down these two teams, this is kind of what you came up with. Is ultimately Kansas's run game was going to break Cincinnati. I don't think anybody had Jason Bean 10 for 10 for almost 200 yards in the first half passing.
He's been good. I mean,
he can throw. Like, he's not bad.
That good.
But Aaron, in the second half, he was 3 for 7. Like
I said,
they didn't have to throw in this.
Yeah, he came back down to earth.
Right. But Kansas has 250 yards passing, 312 yards rushing, and Cincinnati's defense just got shredded. I mean, two things: the defense got shredded, and the passing game wasn't good enough. And I mean, look no further than Kansas averaged 14.7 yards per attempt passing the football. Cincinnati averaged 3.6 yards per attempt passing the football. Kansas averaged 19.2 yards per completion. Cincinnati averaged 6.9 yards per completion. You're not going to win football games that way. You're just not. And you're also not going to win football games when the other team runs for 9.2 yards a carry. So that's right. Every passing play was 14.7 yards. Every run play was 9.2. Kansas ran 51 plays for 562 yards. They only fumbled once. This was another game where Cincinnati did not have a sack and did not have a turnover. Corleone forced the fumble at the beginning of the second quarter that Kansas recovered. Don't be sad that it's over. Be sad that it's happened. Yeah, it's accurate. Josh says, really surprised the defense ended up as bad as it did this year. Me too, man. Thought that side would be at least minimally competent. I mean, we had our concerns about the pass defense. And ultimately, once teams figured out they could throw it whenever they wanted to, that compromises your run game. And then they figure out that, they also can't get to the quarterback. They can't get a sack. They can't get pressure. So when we do throw, our quarterback is going to be able to stand back there against a questionable secondary and just wait for guys to get open. And it's just a disaster. Why are we doing this to ourselves, Geoffrey? Well, we are, because it's our job. Why you are doing this to yourself, I'm not sure.
That's fair.
We are doing this because it's what we do. Why are you here? I don't know, man. I don't know. Worst season that I can remember. I mean, 2 4-8 seasons in the American. Not great. So this is multiple fold. My brother 53. Did the quality of teams get that much better, or did the team just give up? I don't think the team gave up. I do think there were games where their confidence went away far too quick, where they just kind of adversity hit and they didn't have any answers for it. Like I think that is fair to have concern about, because it's important to be able to take a punch and come back. We didn't see much of that. But one, I think there just wasn't enough talent on this team. I mean, it becomes blatantly clear the farther you go through a season, because once teams get you on tape, they figure out, okay, we can pick on them here, we can pick on them there, and then you try to compensate to mask those issues, and it creates other issues, and next thing you know, the whole process kind of just collapses inward on you. So I think a lot of it was talent. I think it's some coaching. I don't think if no one is ever going to be able to explain to me and have me accept it, the logic on the punt or the kickoff right before halftime. I'll never understand that.
Maddening.
Like, you're that worried that your kickoff team, like, they had kicked the ball out of the end zone, I believe, every other time. I don't think there was a return. Was there?
I don't recall one.
It says they returned three kickoffs for 54 yards.
Not much. An average of 18.
That kickoff was 22 yards. They squibbed it. They kicked it right to the guy at the 43-yard line. He returns it, returns it to the 44-yard line, 22 yards to the 44-yard line. And that gave them all, like, if you just kick it out of the end zone, they get the ball at the 25, they run one play, and they go to halftime, and you've got the momentum, 14-10. You're down 14-10, but you just scored, and you get a stop coming out of half, and you're in a position to take the lead in the game. And they had done a nice job in the first half. Like, Kansas moved the ball a little bit, but they only had 14 points. So, you put yourself in a position to go into halftime feeling pretty good. And instead, down 21-10, like, it's just a completely deflating situation. Like, you built up the momentum that you had and just wiped it away completely. I've gotten away from answering the question, but I think it's part talent. I think it's part coaching. I think it's part moving up into a league that's better. And you were middle to bottom of the conference, probably closer to bottom of the conference, if not definitely closer to bottom of the conference in talent. And when you're bottom of the conference in talent, there's only so much you can mask. There's only so much that, you can hide. Big Boy almost broke that kickoff for a touchdown. He did. Like, he was one tackle probably away from being in the open field, rumbling towards the end zone.
Your boy Elliot is in the chat.
What's up, what's up, Zebra? Don't this E-Train thing. Look, you can't be E-Train. There's already an E-Train in town. He's the DJ for the Bengals and the Bearcats. You can't just steal his name, E-Train.
Probably
You're the zebra.
Probably trademarked.
Yeah. Even if it's not, like, you can't just take somebody. Like, there's already an E-Train in town. What was the stadium like? Stadium was outstanding. Like, kudos to the UC fans. The students weren't there, but we expected that because it was
Week of
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
break.
Right.
Yeah, they were home. So I expected the students to be light, but ultimately I thought the crowd was very good, at least until what happened at halftime. And then everybody was like, I'm not doing this. And I don't blame them for that.
Maybe they should do the NCAA like the MLS does, where they just take breaks. So if the students are on Thanksgiving, just take a break that week. Just everyone has a bye. I think that would be fun.
Largely, they just weren't good enough. There could have been a few players. I'm not going to speak to that because I don't think it's fair. I think there were guys that were probably overly frustrated and not holding up their end of the bargain, if you will. So yeah, but they weren't good enough. The first play against Miami told us our secondary was horrible. That's correct, Jonathan.
I want to give a special thank you to Adele and Ryan Montgomery for joining us. Adele for joining us as many times as she has this season, and for Ryan had a hell of a game today with his passing touchdown, his receiving touchdown, and it was a way for 22 to go out.
And one of my favorites, just an awesome kid. So, I gave him a big hug after the game and told him thank you for everything over the years. I try to do that with the guys that, they're playing their last game. It's been in a lot better situations in recent years. They're usually in a lot better mood, but I always try to let them know that we appreciate them giving us the time of day and helping us provide content to the fans.
Also, your boy Chris is in the chat too. So
what's up, brother? Nothing but love. Another one of my absolute favorites. There's still a lot of good kids on this team and men now, especially, the guys with the COVID years, Chris, Ryan, Malik, like those guys could be uncles already. They're not kids anymore.
He's been on the team. We've made those jokes.
Right. Do I expect staff changes? I always expect staff changes. I don't know what form or fashion that they come. But always that's how this works. It's college football and staffs never stay the same from one year to the next. Thank you to Bearcat Journal for all your podcasts. Enjoyed. Thank you, Adele. It's been a blast. Is it true what the broadcaster said about Mateo leaving? I have no idea what he said. I was at the game.
We were working.
Yeah, we've been pretty clear on what we know of that situation on previous shows. Shimano made the decision to leave. So if you've made that decision, the coaching staff called him in and said, "Hey, if you're done, you're done. Like if you've made the decision, we wish you well."
Wasn't your boy Rocky Boyman one of the broadcasters?
Yeah, Rocky did say that when I talked to him Wednesday night that he had the game.
I heard there was apparently an Ohio chili is what they called it, an Ohio chili segment that got butchered pretty bad. Didn't have cheese on it. Nobody knew what the hell was even going on, why they were calling it Ohio chili when it's Cincinnati chili. I don't think they could have. Boyman should have been in charge of that segment if he won.
Right. You've lived here your entire life.
Take over and make sure that it goes the right way.
Yeah. Red zone problems never got better. Don't know where the team improved at the start of the season to the end of the season. I mean, the running game got better substantially. The offensive line played better from the start of the season to the end. The defense got progressively worse. Chris said he just turned 22 4 days ago. Got to chill with the unk. Chris, you know, man, you know it's nothing but love, and I don't think you mind, but I'll tell people this: like, one of the people that was the most consistent and persistent in checking on me through everything that my family has been through over the past 4 or 5 years was Chris Scott. He always went out of his way. Aaron, you've seen it a million times. Yeah. He always went out of his way to make sure I was doing okay, to make sure everything was all right. And that is greatly appreciated. So nothing but love, brother. Nothing but love. Callie, relax. The red zone problems, part of it is just personnel. Like they don't have a bunch of guys that can get open. And like you would hope you can scheme them open. That's the ideal situation, but I mean, it wasn't like they just tried the same stuff over and over again. They tried a bunch of different stuff and didn't work. They tried to run in the red zone. They tried to pass in the red zone. They tried quarterback runs in the red zone. They ran a trick play today that worked.
It was beautiful today.
So yeah, I mean, it's easy to point out that, and I get it. Like the red zone stuff didn't get better. And I think some of that, like, there's a reality here. This team just wasn't a good passing team. It wasn't. They didn't pass block. They didn't pass block exceptionally well. They were run blocking. They were outstanding. They didn't pass block exceptionally well. Emery did not have a great year throwing the football. I think he would tell you that. He had some games where he looked pretty good. He had some games where he struggled. Today was one of those days that he didn't have it. And wide receivers there wasn't a lot of guys running open all over the field. Yeah, if you want to blame that on coaching, blame it on coaching. If you want to blame it on players, blame it on players. I'm not here to tell you definitively this is exactly why. But the entire operation in the passing game did not have a great year. And there's no other way to say it.
Yeah, there's plenty of blame to go around in that regard. Again, you pointed out the coaches, the receivers, Emery. I mean, say what you will, the offensive line.
Right.
Defense not helping in any situation. I wouldn't say any situation, but defense not stopping all the time. It's just you didn't have complimentary football is what I'm getting at, I guess.
No, and we've talked about that for a month. That the complimentary football just wasn't there. Jonathan, appreciate you. Said being in Virginia, we did a good job informing informing people of what's going on. Thank you for doing a great job on the basketball. I appreciate that, man. Like we work really hard on this. Can you talk for a second?
Callie's a terrorist. Sure. I'll try and address this while you're muted. Realistically, why would our QBs want to stay? Satterfield clearly has a mold that he sees that Drogosh or Lichty don't check off. I'm not entirely sure how we haven't seen what Brady Drogosh is or isn't at this point in time. We know he is a project, and we know that they have been working on his development. Lichtenberg he was known as a pocket passer when he was recruited. He had, I believe, the most passing yards ever in high school, Ohio high school sports.
I don't know if it was the most ever, but it was a lot.
It was some. I thought he had some kind of record. Maybe it was whatever division he was in. But in any case, known as a pocket passer. Pocket passer in this offense, I don't know that that's necessarily going to be an immediate fit. That said, we've always talked about the fact that Lichtenberg is sneaky fast. So I don't know, right or wrong. I don't know that either of these guys are not in the mold. I don't know. We've seen Satterfield for a season. I don't know that I'm ready to say that neither.
I mean, I think Drogosh is exactly in the mold, but he's not developed yet. He's a freshman.
He's young.
He's a true freshman that needs development as a passer. And that is the part that takes some time. And it's exactly what we've talked about for a couple of weeks now when people have been calling for him. He hasn't had time with the ones and twos. Like it's just not like it's impossible to keep three guys dialed in and ready to go throughout a season. They had two guys that played quite, Emery played a ton of snaps. Lichty played a good number of snaps towards the back end of the season. All of your energy, all of your focus is going to be on getting those two guys ready. And if you have a guy that is only taken third team snaps, it's not fair to that kid to just throw him into the fire for the hell of it. Like you're not doing right by the kid. And I would hope there's an understanding that like the better thing to do is to do right by the kid and not just say, well, all right, kid, good luck. Against like the other team is not going to have mercy on your soul because you're putting in a freshman quarterback that's only been repping with the third team. They're not going to be like, hey, take it easy on two. Take it easy on two. It doesn't work that way. So, would I have liked to have seen him? Sure. Does he fit what they want to do offensively? Yes, I think he does. And it'll be an important offseason for him to get himself as close to up to full speed as he can get. Do I think they go back to the portal for a QB? Yeah, I do. I do think, though, there will be at least a quarterback from the portal.
I think it would be a disservice to this team to not go to the portal for a QB. I think right now, I think you want to elevate I don't think you can look at what happened this season and look at any position group and not think you need to elevate the play of any position group.
Running back?
Maybe. But even then,
I mean, yeah. You're losing Monty, so yeah. My glass half full view of next season, Brad, there's going to be a lot of time for that, man. There's going to be a lot. I want to see like
we're in the 7 stages of grief. We haven't made it to acceptance yet.
Right. So I think what's important, Brad, I think here is what's important as they travel into this window here of the portal that opens December 4th and goes for 30 days. You have to make sure you keep the guys that you feel can help. And you have to make sure that the guys that are going into the portal are the guys that you feel like aren't a part of the building back up of this program. And the reason I say that is if you're just trading one for one, okay, we lost a starting linebacker, we need a starting linebacker. We lost a starting safety, we need a starting safety. If that's the plan, you're not going to get any better than where you're at essentially this year because you just traded one for one and you lost seniors and replaced them with freshmen. And then you're replacing the guys that could help you with guys that now you're going to need to start. So the way you fix a roster in this portal era is you take the guys that your staff feels are not the future of the program, the guys that are at the bottom of the roster, and you try to replace them with top of the roster guys. Because that is how you are going to increase your depth. Is because there's 15 guys that we don't see, that the staff doesn't see as part of the next step that are now moving on, and we're going to be able to replace those 10, 15 guys with guys that we think are going to be able to come in and make an impact early and right away.
How soon do you think the NCAA has their shit figured out as far as two-time transfers go, though?
Sats already said it's not something
I know he did, but I'm just curious if you're hamstringing yourself because you're not one of the teams going after any of these two-time transfers, and all of a sudden they changed the rules.
It's football, man. It's a whole different. You're thinking basketball, football. There's so many kids to go get in football that if the difference being like there was just nobody. Hold on, just listen. Let's listen. There's nobody the staff is going to go get that is what Aziz Bandago means to the basketball team as a second-time transfer. Tez Walker was, that was, a different situation, but you didn't see it hardly as much of this in football because one guy isn't going to change things the way that like Aziz changes this basketball roster. So you don't need to take those risks because you just go find a guy that doesn't have the waiver situation. Like football's just different because there's so many positions and so many guys. And
I just wonder, I don't think it's going to happen before this window is open and closed.
Look,
but
Aaron,
I just wonder if it's going to happen.
If there's a championship level quarterback that needs a 2-time waiver, go take his ass. Right?
I just wonder if it's going to happen before this, like the spring portal.
I don't know exactly. I don't get what you mean.
Like after spring games happen, if we're gonna have an answer from the NCAA at that point in time, in regards to.
I mean, it's not going to matter. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter in football.
I'm just making conversation.
I know.
Podcast and all.
I know. I'm just saying, like it's not overly relevant to football like it is to basketball because one guy in basketball, unless the quarterback in football, one guy in basketball changes a lot. And in football, it's a lot more detailed than that. So I guess here would be my glass half full view of next season, Brad. Last year, West Virginia and Iowa State stunk. They're bad. There was talk of Neil Brown being fired at the beginning of the season. Like, what, 3 games, 2, 3? How many games? We joked about that, didn't we? How many games until Neil Brown is fired?
We joked about it.
1, 2.
We didn't know if we didn't know if we would play against him.
Right. Those two teams were at the bottom of the Big 12 last year, and this year they are in the middle to upper middle. So that is a glass half full that in this league it can be done. The thing that is concerning is that as the season wore on, it just got progressively more disastrous. It went from, hey, if they make a couple plays, they might win that game. Now, I think it's also important to note UCF, BYU was a game they felt they could win and didn't. UCF was a game they felt they could win and didn't. And Houston is a game they won. You don't always get to play the 3 stinky teams, that just joined the conference. And the teams that are joining next year from the Pac-12 look pretty good. Well, Colorado's, we'll see. But, it becomes Utah looks like they might be the best team in the league next year. Arizona is very good. Arizona State has had a pretty solid season. Colorado is what Colorado is, but the league gets harder. So glass half full, we have seen teams make a jump, and they will have a chance to do that. But now is when we find out the value of why they prioritized the recruiting staff and why they prioritized having a GM and having guys that are familiar with how the portal works. Now we need to see it. And you need to see those guys hit on more than they miss. There were definitely some hits in the portal in a shortened cycle with essentially no staff at this time last year, but you're not going to be perfect there. So, but the hit rate needs to be better because I don't think the hit rate was high enough. Do I see the O-line returning as a whole unit again next year? I think there's a pretty good chance. I think those guys all enjoy Coach Cardwell. We know, Luke Kandra is a big Coach Cardwell guy. So for Luke, I think that it'll be where the draft. He for a while, and I don't know if he still is, but he was the number one graded right guard in the Power 5. That usually means NFL teams are gonna be interested. So for Luke, it's gonna depend on what's the draft grade. I think there's a good chance Gavin comes back, D'Artagnan Tinsley. I think can turn himself into an NFL draft pick next year if he continues to progress at the level that we've seen. I think they need a tackle or two in the portal, like an impact type tackle or two in the portal to just raise the level of that position. Maybe John Williams and DeAndre Buford win the job, but you're gonna need to go get a tackle or two to elevate the competition in that room.
Well, no,
because I think tackle was good, but not good enough. Good in the run game, not good enough in the pass game. Good, but not good enough.
Satterfield, when he first got here, he talked about how he likes to have generally somewhere between 8 and 10 starting caliber offensive linemen on a team.
Yeah, sure. Everybody wants that, Aaron.
Sure. Well, I get that. But
I've heard I'm just saying. I have literally heard every coach since D'Antonio say they want 8 to 10 starting quality offensive linemen. I don't know that any of them have ever had it in 17 years.
Just piggybacking off what you said, though, I mean, if you can get an offensive lineman or two, I know that there's something to be said for returning a whole unit, but at the same time, unless this entire unit is taking a full step forward in pass protection, I don't know that I don't want to prioritize returning the whole unit if you're not getting better. I guess, does that make sense? I know it's 1:00 in the morning, and I don't know if anything I'm saying is making sense anymore.
No, hold on 1 second.
Okay, sure.
I'll be right back.
Yep.
It makes sense. What I would also say, though, is, Aaron, that was one of your 2 or 3 best units on the roster.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know that I'm running anybody off from that unit.
I don't know. I'm not, and I'm not saying necessarily even prioritize that above other units on like other position groups. Just if there's an opportunity to get better, don't not get better because you want to just return this whole unit, as opposed to.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. I think the one area that they need more depth. They need to be better on the offensive line is that tackle. So you go out and you find a tackle or two, and you bring them in, and you let them compete with the 2 guys that started at tackle, plus Philip Wilder, who saw a lot of time at right tackle throughout this season. I just think it's they're in a decent spot at offensive line. What I don't want to do is, and I think this is kind of what you're getting at, don't put yourself in a position where you say, okay, let's not address that because they were good. Right?
I also don't, obviously you didn't deal with any injuries this season on the offensive line, which is a difference that you haven't had the last couple of years. But if you're also one injury away from this whole line not being together, and how deep are you at line if nobody challenged? So I guess that's where I'm
at. Jules, I do not agree with this at all. Recruit Ohio equals wins. No. Recruit the best players, and that equals wins. Do I think that you should focus on Ohio because it is it's your home base? Yes. Do I think you should take the 42nd best player in Ohio just because he's from Ohio? No, I don't. I don't. You evaluate the kids in Ohio the same way that you evaluate everybody else. And if the kid's from Ohio, I think they should get a little bit like if you've got a kid from Ohio that's you feel is equally as talented and meets your criteria, the same as a kid from somewhere else, then sure, take the kid, prioritize the kid from Ohio. But you do not just recruit Ohio for the hell of it. And to say you have a team full of Ohio kids, that's how you end up looking like a MAC team. I don't agree with that.
We've had quite a bit of success in other pipeline states as well. Pennsylvania,
right?
Florida,
Michigan, Georgia.
Everyone wants to get into Texas,
Indiana,
California.
Yeah. So recruit the kids that you think are going to be best. And if the kid from Ohio is right there equal with the kid from another state at a position of need, then okay, then fine. Prioritize the Ohio kid. But you don't prioritize the Ohio kid over a kid you think is better than the Ohio kid just because they're from Ohio. What makes a kid in the portal want to choose a 3-9 Cincinnati team? There's going to be playing time. Guess why transfers are transferring, Jules? Yep. To play. Yep. I mean,
also, there's something to be said for a guy who runs for 1,000 yards when you had literally zero pass to talk about.
Right. That was an interesting one. I've ever seen a coaching hire last as short as Mark Stoops at Texas A&M? It was never confirmed that he was going to Texas A&M. I think what happens a lot of times, you have to remember, is something gets floated to see what the fan base reaction is. And the Texas A&M reaction to Mark Stoops was, oh, hell no.
Tennessee had a situation where the guy
they hired. Yeah. Get out. And Shiano probably would have been pretty good there. Do I think NIL is in good enough position for what the staff wants to accomplish in the portal this year? Well, I think the staff is realistic about what they have in the portal.
It's a loaded question because NIL is never going to be good enough for what you want to accomplish, right? If you wanted to be able to throw gobs of money at everybody and get everybody at the top of the list.
Right. Well, like, does this staff think they're in position to compete with the SEC for NIL players at the top of the portal? No, they're not stupid. No. They know kind of what one of the reasons you hire a GM and you go through this process that UC is going through is because you want someone in place to understand we have this much money to spend. How is the best way to spend it? Like that's what a GM does. What's our salary cap, so to speak? And how does our salary cap now, it ends up being more of a baseball situation because you're playing with right. Yeah. Like you're dealing with uneven budgets, so to speak. But I think they're in an okay position. I think they're in a decent position in terms of like the Big 12 on the NIL front. Are they in the same position as SEC and Big 10 teams? Probably not, because they don't have that type of money.
I concur.
Jules, no, okay, man, you're gonna have to start donating money if you want to ask any more questions. Holy crap. Yeah, back to the game, Aaron. Corey Kiner, 1,000-yard season. Well done.
Yep. Another 100-yard game, 18 carries, 106 yards. As long as
that's 18. Good stuff. 5.9 a carry. I mean, that's quality. Ryan had a good showing. As we talked about, he had the receiving touchdown. He also had 8 carries for 49 yards. a long of 21, and he threw a touchdown pass. He had a little bit better day than Brady Lichtenberg. Brady was 0 for 3. Ryan Montgomery was 1 for 1 with 7 yards and a touchdown. I do want to give Kobe Bryant from Kansas credit. That's one of the better interceptions you'll ever see.
He used Xavier Henderson's
other hand as the second hand on the ball
to establish possession. That was insane. Absolutely insane. The pictures that Gilliard's ghost got were outrageous.
Brian Baker. His name is Brian Baker, Aaron. He has worked for me for a decade plus.
I thought he worked under a pseudonym. I wasn't giving away his real information.
Brian Baker. I think Todd hired Brian Baker. That's how long Brian Baker has been with Bearcat Journal.
Well, it was his pictures were amazing. Hell of a get by him.
Daniel, I am fascinated I was watching that.
We were talking about
on my Twitter feed. Yeah. Iowa State scored 42 points and only had 2 snaps in Kansas State territory. They were hitting. It was like watching an MLB team hit like 8 solo home runs in a game. 42 points, 2 snaps in Kansas State territory. Their running back, I think, had 13 rushes for 250 yards at one point.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a baseball analogy to this.
Well, like they walked the bases loaded and he just hit grand slams every time they did. You got 3 guys on, and then the only hit you had was a grand slam. Brian Baker and our guy Pat Strang, Todd. It's the defense just isn't. And Wayne Littmer. Yeah, love Wayne Littmer. That's my guy too. Chris Crawford, throwing out all the names from back in the day when we were first starting this, what has become a multimedia empire, right, Aaron?
Whatever you say, balls.
Yeah, empire. That one's fascinating to me. The Iowa State Kansas State game in the snow, Farmageddon. Running spot was a huge bright spot this year. They don't even need to have a great passing game. You just imagine if defenses were honest against this running game, Aaron. Defenses didn't have to be honest outside of dig routes and really that and swing passes, anything outside of 15 yards. Defenses did not have to respect against this offense. Imagine if they're just competent in the passing game.
I'm going to shrink it even more than that. I think that really anything over 10 yards, 8 to 10 yards. Yeah. Most stuff we threw was 5 yards or less, even on third down and 8 yards or more. We're still throwing screens and checkdowns and I don't know.
Some of that is the quarterback. Some of that is you don't trust your wide receivers to get open. And guess what also, Aaron? It's really hard to get open in 8 yard to 12. Let's go 8 to 12, 8 to 12 yard windows. In 8 to 12 yard windows, it's hard to get open if the guys if the safeties don't have to worry about you going over the top. They don't have to worry about you pushing the ball down the field. They know you're going to throw the ball within 8 to 12 yards. So you have 11 guys all within an 8 to 12 yard window of the quarterback. And it's really hard to win that way.
One of the things I think I was frustrated about, again, we see a game in which Barry Jackson touches the ball. I believe it was a 10-yard gain at least. It was a first down when he touched the ball. Mm-hmm. And then we don't see any more Barry Jackson. I don't think the kid has never not gotten a first down. So when you're struggling to move the ball in the passing game, and I understand that it's senior night, and there's something to be said for that, and we did see obviously an awful lot of Chris Jones in the slot, an awful lot of Braden Young.
Chris Jones.
I'm sorry, Chris Scott. Again, it's almost 1:30 in the morning.
Chris Scott didn't play.
Chris Scott did play. What are you talking about?
He was in street clothes at halftime.
Is there a different?
Oh, he had one target. I guess he played for early in the first half. He had one target for no yards.
Okay.
Or one catch for no yards. My mistake that he dapped me up at halftime. He was in street clothes, so I don't know if he got dinged up or Chris. I don't know. You caught me off guard with that one. Jonathan, thank you.
My point, though,
Braden Smith and Aaron Turner were the guys in front of him. I would have, yeah. It's the same as me wanting Evan Prater at that number 2 wide receiver spot on the other side. Like, at some point, I probably would have just said, look, Evan's the 2 and Barry Jackson's the 3. Yeah, Aaron Turner was 80 today. So I do think they screwed that up.
Maybe
I don't think Chris got dressed.
Maybe I must have missed that. Even up in the press box.
Yeah. Aaron Turner and Chris Scott do not look similar.
Well,
but from the press box,
they even on stat broadcast, they have Chris Scott listed. So
they have him in the final game thing too, but they don't have
Aaron Turner.
So I think they did mistake Chris Scott for Aaron Turner on the receiving stats.
I don't know.
I don't know if Chris is still here.
Again, my whole point was just that I would have liked to see, even on some of these third downs, when you're going 3rd and 8 or more,
get it to Bear. Yeah, get it to him. Let him see what he can do. Do I think Louisville's success this year had anything to do with Scott Satterfield? Daniel, I don't give a shit about Louisville. I don't care. I'm sure it did. He recruited a good portion of that roster.
Plenty of the team.
Sure. Today was one of the very few days, Daniel, I'm going to be honest with you. There are very few things I've ever been happy for Kentucky, the University of Kentucky, in anything. I was happy for them today to beat Louisville, just to shut the Louisville fans up. It's been a very annoying. They have been as annoying as any fan base ever.
Tumultuous relationship
over the past 12 months. And kiss my ass, those people. I'm glad Kentucky beat them today, and hopefully had a chance to ruin whatever goodwill Louisville had this season. Go Florida State next week.
Good on the Lady Bearcats.
They beat. Yeah.
As much as you were happy that Louisville lost to Kentucky, we're also equally happy that Kentucky got the break speed off of them by the ladies' team.
Yes, in the Paradise Jam. Good for them. Look, that's as tough as you can get. They played 2 top 10 teams there at the Paradise Jam, and then Kentucky today. Easy to have gotten discouraged on, playing close, but not being, not having the firepower yet to play with a couple top 10 teams at an event like that. But good on them bouncing back today and kicking Kentucky's ass.
Also good to see you, Lane Big.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens with these meetings this week, with who comes out as they're going to. I think that there's probably plenty of guys on this roster that'll be pretty loud about whether they're staying or whether they're leaving. And I think that
we'll know quick. Like, we're going to know quick. Those meetings are happening Monday and Tuesday. The portal doesn't open until December 4th, but that doesn't mean guys can't announce their intention to enter the portal before then. It just means they can't file the paperwork until December 4th.
The sooner
Watley's one I expected is not going to be back. Again,
the sooner you announce, the sooner you can get up on somebody's board, have them start to look at your tape.
Right. if the decision has been made, you're dumb not to put it out there that you're going to be in the portal.
100% I agree.
Look, Justin, and I like Justin Watley, but he falls into the category of what I've been talking about. Yeah, he got some playing time, but if you were a part of the previous regime and you weren't heavily a part of where this is at right now, then there's a good chance that you'll probably hit the portal. And this roster will continue to turn over into Scott Satterfield's iteration of what Cincinnati football looks like. Again,
he flashed at times, but when you have an entire defensive line that came up more often than not with no sacks and nobody's pushing to move any of the guys who are starting off,
right?
Something's got to give.
I'm gonna look at this probably before Monday night. How many games they had one or fewer sacks on this season? And my guess is it's the majority.
Like I said, he flashed at times this season, and I think we were all happy. But you can't put all of your eggs in the "I hope there's off-season progression" basket.
Right. You got to go find somebody that can get after the quarterback, and make it uncomfortable.
Even guys like Greshik, who came in having done just that, wasn't able to do that here.
Right. What else? You miss Scruggs? Well, go for Wisconsin. I don't know what to tell you. Should the defensive coordinator be replaced? So this is something that took a little while at Louisville as well with Brian Brown. And I don't think it's fair at this point to throw Brian Brown's defense under the bus, because I think they're definitely at what they want to do. There was definitely a deficiency in guys that can get after the quarterback, quick twitch, long, Myjai Sanders type presence that can get after the quarterback. And also, it is very tough to do that if you never have a lead. Like, watch again. We've made this comparison, Aaron. Watch the difference in the Bengals when they are playing from behind and when they're playing from ahead. And when they're playing from ahead, Trey Hendrickson is a man with his hair on fire.
Who knows if you're going to see the Bengals playing with a lead the rest of the season? That's yet to be determined. That said, if you want to stick with just watching the Bearcats, go back and look at the Houston game and what they were able to do defensively against Houston.
Look at Pitt.
Far different. Even Pitt kind of defense got weird at the end of the game, but that said,
that was a different problem.
That said, I mean, you can go back as recently as Houston, though, and see what some of the differences were, what they could do on defense compared to some of these other games.
If you're constantly playing from behind, you can't just pin your ears back and go after the quarterback. It doesn't work.
You can't be as aggressive, because if you give up the big play and then
you're behind by more.
Yeah.
Now you go from behind by 4 to behind by 11. Like, it's just not a winning formula. And here's the thing that I think is really interesting in terms of like Brian Brown. They played so much drop 8 coverage this year because they had to. Like, they were not chomping at the bit at the line of scrimmage to come after the quarterback. They couldn't. Like, they were dropping 8 to just try to, because their corners weren't good enough and because their safeties weren't good enough, they had to try to drop as much into coverage as they could. And even then, it still wasn't good enough. Favorite Big 12 newcomer for next year. Utah is the best of the bunch. Arizona is fascinating.
Utah talks a whole bunch of shit on Twitter too, as a fan base. They think they already think they're better than the Big 12 and don't know why they're in this godforsaken conference.
Just go listen to people talk about the Utah Jazz and the experience playing against them, and you get a very good sense of what Utah fans are like. It's not pretty. That's literally considered the worst place to play in the NBA because of their fans.
Sure.
And the Utah football fan base is the exact same. But Arizona, they've had a eye-opening year. So they'll be interesting to watch. Speed, Todd. Yeah, I mean, well, it's there needs to be some skill involved too, but speed is definitely a priority because, man, when you watch Jason Bean run today, Aaron, they didn't have anybody run like that.
We knew Jason Bean was good, though. We've been talking about him on all of our recaps
all year.
He is far and away the best backup who's no longer a backup. There's zero. But my point is, there's a 0% chance he is a backup to anyone next year.
I think he's done.
Is he? I thought he still had another year.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong there.
I don't know.
Arizona, if they can keep Fish, he could be gone. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Josh. Thank you, Captain Obvious Josh Barakowski. I've never tried to actually sound that out, Josh. That first K is in a bad spot. How would you pronounce that, Aaron?
This is apparently what happens at 1:30 in the morning. This is where we're
at. Yeah. If Arizona and apparently he's only making like $3 million a year.
Jason Bean's 6th year. Yeah, he is done.
Yeah,
all the way done.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought I heard that today actually. So but Jalen Daniels has said he's coming. Jaden Daniels
and he was an early favorite for a Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. So a lot of people picked him.
Dude, that offense is wild. They snap it to the running back and have the running back don't read it to the quarterback, who then has the ability to throw.
Yeah.
Like, it's better not to try. I'll just call you Josh. Like, we're just gonna go with Josh from here on out.
Borkowski.
Yeah, that's probably right. Borkowski. Yeah. I expected that offense to be interesting and fun to watch, and it was what I thought it was going to be. Like I saw one time I was standing behind the play, and I think they lined Devin Neal up, the running back, behind center. And this is early in the game. Maybe you saw this.
Jason Bean goes wide out to
he was like standing over the tackle, and they snapped to Bean, who, like, the center snapped it to the guy that was standing between the tackle and guard, essentially.
I missed that. I don't know.
Well, when you're standing behind the play, you generally zero in on the quarterback, right? So I zeroed in on Bean, and he was standing like kind of between the guard and the tackle. And I was like, what the fuck is happening here? And they snapped it from the center to the guy that was standing between the guard. And
their offense was like a wildcat of a wildcat. Like,
right.
Like or a wildcat. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Like,
yeah,
it was just
they snapped it to the running back. He would hand it to the quarterback, and then the quarterback was ready to throw or run for 40 or 50 yards untouched for a touchdown. Yeah, Daniel, I don't care about FC Cincinnati. Like, I don't a wildcat kind of. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of wildcat. I don't hold any ill will towards anyone that roots for FC Cincinnati. I don't.
We do that show on Tuesdays.
I don't care what they do.
All
George does. George likes them.
I said we do that show on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for about an hour. I got to get up and do this all over again in like 8.5 hours, and I still have to drive.
Dave will be there in the morning.
I have to set that up right now. I'm not going to be
here. Talk about it.
I'm not going to be here at this house. I still have to go to another house to go to bed and then come back here to produce in the morning at 10, or at least set it up tonight.
Yeah, I would set it up tonight and send out invites. Let them figure it out.
Oh, I got a daughter who's going to be up in 5.5 hours too.
Yeah, well, this is the life you chose, Aaron.
Yeah, well, we've been doing this for an hour on a season that is over. Close the book on it. We get to do it again Monday night.
Aaron, it's 1:37 in the morning, and there are still 70 idiots here with us.
Sickos.
All right, we're going to call it a night. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. You know we love you guys more than you could ever imagine, especially dealing with what
a rough
we just
season
dealt with. Yeah,
a rough season.
It was not fun. Nobody had fun. I didn't have fun. You didn't have fun. Nobody here had fun. Yeah, Andrew, awesome that you took your son to his first game. It'll get better. It'll get better. You guys have a great night. We'll be back tomorrow night to talk about a crazy Big 12 final week of the season, and then basketball and transfer portal, because
there'll be plenty of stuff going on.
It's going to be a lot to talk about. So we're not going anywhere. We're just going to bed. He's Aaron Smith. I'm Chad Brendel. That's the Nightcap. We'll see you tomorrow right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.